that way, and it's very simple to use.
What's the correct way they're supposed to be like this?
Your glasses?
Yeah,
I think
they're
they're just
like
supposed to cover your eyeballs.
they're just slightly crooked now every time I see them, and
Maybe your face
trying my
is just a
best.
little crooked.
Probably, and my glasses are actually straight.
You got crooked face, man. So in the first video, you guys saw that we started off with verse 1 and 2. It reminds us often of a common phrase that David says, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? It's this plead that David says, and many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. And so first what we did in the first video was look at context, because it really brings to life why David is saying these things. Because if you look at most of you on your headers, it says it's when he, David, fled from his son Absalom. So we looked in 2 Samuel 15:29 and the verses preceding that, and it basically talks, there's a bunch of things going on, a lot of drama, and David basically is fleeing from his son because he wants to kill him, and there's talk of the Ark of the Covenant and how it has to go back to Jerusalem. And so this is all the mess of going into David saying, yeah, there's really no hope for me. This is what these people are saying, that, yeah, God can't deliver you because the Ark of the Covenant's not here. There's people trying to kill you. And so now we're at this point that we talked at the end of the video in verse 3, where it says, but you, Lord, but you, God. And it's reminding us of the common phrase of the descriptors or the adjectives of what David uses to describe who God is to him, his personal God in this situation. And we see it's the shield, the glory, or the honor, as we said, or the one who lifts my head high. Because it's not us who's doing it, the prideful, stiff-necked people at times, but it's God doing all the work. And he's the one that ultimately delivers us in our lives, the situations that cause us pain and suffering, and in David's situation now, in the mess that he's in. So I think that's where we're at. That was summarized well, Casey and friends.
I think that was great. So if we hop back in, thank you so much,
Cool.
Jacob, for that. And as we get into verse 4, let's just start breaking this down. So I'm going to go ahead and read the next little section here. I'll probably read until about like verse 6 or so, and then take on to the end. So it says, and again, we're reading out of the Amplified version of the Bible here, so follow along in whatever version you prefer. And whenever you see brackets, it's just meaning that that's something that's amplifying what's already been said or what is about to be said in this particular version of the Bible. So let's get in verse 4. With my voice, I was crying to the Lord, and he answered me from his holy mountain, Selah. I lay down and slept. I awakened, for the Lord sustained me. I will not be intimidated or afraid of 10,000 who have set themselves against me all around. All right, let's stop there and let's take a look at what's going on here. Really interesting. It seems like we're getting deeper into the comfort of who God is and identity once again. But let's see, Jacob, I picked on you already to start off. What do you think, Brandon? What are you seeing? What sticks out to you in verse 4, 5, and 6? What's one thing?
So I like verse 5. I lay down and slept. And I like that that's all it says. I'm reading out of the ESV, and that's what all it says to me. In the Amplified is saying, safely. And as you were saying of comfort, that is one thing that, I feel a lot of us crave and we want, and, constantly you want to feel safe. And then he follows by saying, I woke again, for the Lord sustained me. And I feel like I've met some people who, you ask them how their day is going, and it's like, well, it's another day the Lord has given me, you know, and it's good to be reminded that the Lord is the one who gave me life. He's the one. Now I wake up again and keeps me safe and lets me wake up in the morning again. And I think especially what we've read previously, saying he lay down and slept, man, I would be kind of scared to go and lay down and sleep, with
Yeah.
everything that's going on, or the people who were trying to follow me and things like that.
Mm.
But knowing David, and he was just talking, he is his shield, so maybe he's still being his shield then when sleeping and staying safe.
Yeah. What comes to mind for me is the complete opposite moment of this when David was in his really early days with Saul, like chasing him. So right here,
Yeah.
you guys know the story, right? Like, you know where I'm going with this, where Saul was sleeping and David had the opportunity to kill him and he didn't take it. But like, what did he do? He cut off some of his robe or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like that reminds me of that a little bit. So David knows in his particular situation, which is really funny because he wasn't the king, but he was when he was on the run from Saul, right? He was anointed king, but Saul was chasing him down to kill him. Now he's in the same situation with his own son who took the throne, right? So like he's actually the king now. And his son is the one posing and trying to overthrow him, and he's raised support. That's what we saw in 2 Samuel. Like, people are starting to say, oh yeah, Absalom's the one, and they're following him. So now he's on the run again, and he's sleeping, and he's saying, you know what? I slept safely. I slept. And then I awakened. It wasn't just that I slept. I also awakened because the Lord sustains me. So it wasn't Saul where he was absent from the Lord. It was, I trust that you're going to sustain me. And we saw in 2 Samuel 2 where he's saying if God actually has favor on me, I'm going to come back into Israel. I'm going to come and see that Ark of the Covenant again and the temple. But if God doesn't have favor on me, he's going to give me over to things, right? So we see that he's okay with what God decides. I think that has something to do with the peace of being able to sleep at night. And that's going kind of deep, I guess. Got a lot of things that wake us up at night that aren't people trying to kill us with swords.
Yeah, right.
Jacob, were you going to say something?
I was just going to add, I really like that you touched on that, Brandon, because that's very important. Like, yeah, I mean, it just brings the story to life, right? Like, and it exalts God a little bit more. To me, I see the first half as almost like a lament, right? He's lamenting. He's like, oh, God, like these people are after me. And then verse 5 through 6, you're more understanding like the realization. He's realizing again, he's remembering who God is in his life. And then we'll get to this, but 7 and 8 is more of the exaltation, right? It's exalting God. So, and there's hints of it in what we just read. But again, you see for us, when you hear someone say, who is God to you? For David, it was all, the shield, the sustainer, the one that lifts the head, the my glory, and the refuge, the fortress, all these things you hear. So I think for this, in hearing this for us, it's a good moment to say, man, what does it mean for God to sustain me? Because for David, it was something very intense. But for us, it brings it to life. Like, okay, let's realize what this means for us too, because it's the same God, although it was thousands of years ago, to a totally different person in a totally different country, perhaps. But he still sustains us, and that's pretty significant, really, to the God that we serve. So. And then I just love verse 6 because he's being a little bold now, right? He's saying, I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Like, come get some, almost like it's not. It was all in Psalm 2, I think, too. Yeah. So, and I can't think, but we see hints of like David's becoming more confident and saying, like, yeah, I'm confident with who God is and he will sustain me. So yeah, like bring everything you got because it's not going to bring me down. Or my God, come get some. I like it.
You said it.
Quote, you quoted me.
I put quotes on there. Copyright Jacob Massey. Come get some.
Okay.
Don't sue me. Let's keep going. No, that's all really good. I think we're just going to wrap it up here. So we're getting into this last little portion here where, again, I mean, we're just seeing the heart of David just from brokenness into life, really. And so as we get into this last bit, what I think is really cool is you see him go from depravity to security and then into boldness and glorifying God. And so we're going to see that right here in verse 7 and on. It says, "Arise, O Lord, save me, O God." And now he's starting to put like exclamation points, you know, like it's becoming this big kind of deal to him where he's just boldly proclaiming to God. "For you have struck all my enemies on the cheek. You have shattered the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongs to the Lord. May your blessings be upon your people. Selah." All right. So as we get into that, let's give us some last thoughts here as we start wrapping this up. What's David really starting to do here? And I think, again, it's moving from this section really that is kind of timid, and then this section that's getting more secure. And then you get this last section that's like really bold, and it's all about God and not him. He starts just glorifying him completely. So yeah, give me your thoughts. Let's start with you, Jacob.
Whoa. Well, again, if you read through a lot of the Psalms, you see this is very common. David does this a lot. He's real down in the dumps, and then he remembers, and then he exalts who God is, and he's bold about it. So I think it's interesting that it says, first of all, in my version it says, "Deliver me, my God." So more deliverance language, right? More deliver me from this. You are delivering me. And then it says, "Strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked." Like he's just being kind of intense. Like he's almost pumped up for God. Like break them, do all this crazy stuff. He's a Jesus thug, I guess. I don't know, or a God thug.
A Jesus thug?
But,
don't say that. I can't put that on the internet.
I know. Oh, geez. But and then verse 8, "From the Lord comes deliverance." And so again, there's this deliverance language. And I think it's interesting. He says, and I got to remember what it says. Yeah, "May your blessing be upon your people." And I was going to ask you guys what you thought that meant, because who is he talking to here? May your blessing be on your people. Because he's obviously talking to the Lord, but on your people. I just thought that was interesting, whether it's the people of Israel, whether it's the people who's pursuing him, because it could have cool implications either way it goes, I think.
Yeah.
Because I really don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there.
You got anything on that, Brandon?
I mean, the first thing that came to my mind, I was assuming, the people that, pursue him, that are following him and and worshiping him.
Yeah, I think
right
you're right
away. I guess that's like what just makes the most sense when I first read it.
I think you're completely right. And so I'm going to go to another Psalm to throw my thoughts out there on it. So if I look at Psalm 101, maybe later. All right. So over here, when David is talking, so like this, in verse 6, "I will look with favor on the faithful in the land, and they may dwell with me." So this is David kind of echoing what God says a lot. What is faithful? Like what does faithful mean? And how does that included in God's people? Like the people he's going to protect or bless in that way. So again, like you see some language here where he talks about, he gets pretty divisive in this one too. And we'll go over this in 97 weeks from now. But he gets over here and he says in verse 7, "No one who practices deceit shall dwell in my house. No one who utters lies shall continue before my eyes." So he's getting like pretty ballsy about people doing little things, like tiny little sins in our eyes sometimes. It's like, you're not even allowed in my house. You're not going to be associated with me if you lie, you little sinner. You know,
You
like
heathen.
yeah, like he's just done with these people, and he doesn't
Jesus
specify.
thug.
What's that?
I said Jesus thug.
Yeah. You're gonna hashtag that, aren't you? Hashtag Jesus thug next to the
what it
hashtag
is.
local worship project. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's terrible. But you see his contrast of like who God is looking for and who he is despising, you know, and you see these two characteristics. So people who are sinning and not faithful, they're people who God despises. God hates sin. Even in his own people that he chose, he hates sin. And we see that all the time with Israel, where he turns them over to their sin, and they get conquered and all that kind of stuff. And then he restores them through some way, and he does it because of the faithful. And it's really interesting how God just does that over and over and over again. And so I think, yeah, what you're saying, Brandon, is completely right. So when we see these, where is that? Your blessing be upon your people. I really think what he's saying there is for your faithful people. I can amplify the Amplified Bible. That's what I would put in.
Nice.
Is more of your faithful people, the people who actually long for you, or who trust in you and put their hope in you and their faith in you, and come to you when times are tough. So when times are tough, that's when faithful people just fall away, right? Or non-faithful people fall away. And so I think there's something too where God's blessing, you have to be associated with him in order to receive it. Does that make sense? So like take, for example, Jacob and Esau, right? So Esau came to get the blessing from Isaac after Jacob had already came and stole it. So Jacob was with his father. He got the blessing because he was with him, and he beat Esau to the punch. He received the blessing, he took off, and Esau came, and Isaac was like, well, you were late. Here's what I got left. Sorry. And it was terrible. But that's really what happened. So if I think of blessing, you have to be near the person who's giving it. And so that means you have to be faithful to that person. You have to be hanging around them. You have to be dwelling with them in order to receive a blessing from them. Does that make sense? That's where my mind goes.
I feel that.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this? Because I have one more, but I'm going to save it.
Well, I think kind of what you were, I forget, it might have been Jacob who said, towards the end of this, or no, I think Casey said at the beginning, where now it's starting to focus more on God himself. Mm-hmm. Where if you look from even verse 1 to verse 6, how many I's and my and me and things like that. And now from 7 to 8, you've got like 3, save me, oh my God, and all my enemies. But everything else is focused towards him and what he does and the things he's capable of. And kind of, I like that the end of this is even, it's a reminder, salvation belongs to the Lord and your blessing be on your people. So I feel like that's always good to, if you ever end something, end on a good, strong point, something to remember it by.
Yeah. What do you think, Jacob? Anything to chime in on that?
You're right.
Amen.
No,
Sila?
I echo you.
I think that's exactly right.
Good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I think there's that one last thing in there too, where we see this contrast from the very beginning to the very end. And I think it's so cool. Because we see the exact same phrase almost, right? We see it and I'm sorry, my scribbling is everywhere, so it's hard to see it. But in verse 2, you see this, no salvation for him in God. There, I'll just make it as big as I can. Does that help? Maybe. I'll highlight it in red too. Maybe that helps. There we go.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah.
Okay. So no salvation for him in God. This is what the other people are saying. So there's no help, no salvation for him in God. And then we get down to what David's actually saying is salvation belongs to the Lord. And so he's just reiterating that salvation is God's. So one, don't tell me who God's going to save and who he's not going to save. Right? I'm confident that God is in charge and not you. So you're not going to affect me by your opinions when it's my relationship with God. So that's cool. But then the second thing here is they didn't quite get it wrong. You know, there is no help for him in God. So they kind of had it right. But it lends itself to that twisting that we often do in the Bible. And we kind of take something that is good and that we know, and we twist it for our own words to actually cut somebody down, or to change the essence of what God's actually trying to say in the Bible for our own ends. And that's something that I think is happening here, where David just kind of corrects them, you know, and basically it's that check yourself, you know, one more time, like the last passage that we read too. But it's like, guys, this is the real deal here. And he wrote it in the song that he's singing here. That's something I see. I don't know. Final thoughts though. What about you guys? Whole passage. Any last things to say about this? Jacob, you go first, man.
Goody. It's a good one. I think for me, sorry. I think for me, it's a practical psalm. It's good for me to know the context of it. And I think a practical sense of it is, context is important, especially with Psalms, because you kind of get an understanding of what's going on in his life. And that brings a fuller sense of the story in the Psalm in and of itself. And also for me, it helps me to realize that God is my deliverer. That's something that really popped out to me today. That deliverance is huge for the Israelites and also for my life. When he delivers me from pain, suffering, hard situations, conversations I don't want to have, so on and so forth, it allows me to say, yeah, because God is my sustainer, he lifts my head, and all these other adjectives. So yeah, it's a good one. And also, be bold in Christ. I think when we often, like David does, when he remembers who God truly is, that's right. And then he exalts, and then he's bold because he remembers who God really is. So that's what I got.
That's good. How about you, Brandon? Any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, that ending there from Jacob was really what I was thinking of too, because I feel like, at least in the beginning of this, he's thinking of all these people and all these things that are going on, and he's taking then the time to know and remember what the Lord can do for him and what he has done possibly. And I feel that's always a good testament to whenever we're going through a struggle or we're thinking of all these bad things that are going on, and just to have that remembrance and to have, you know, those moments where you remember, yeah, he's done this for me in the past. I know he can do this. And, you know, it's just the way that he, what's the word I use? I'm using youth terms of full send. What's another youth pastor? Help me out here. What's another thing when someone says, I'm on a full send on it?
I'm a worship pastor, man.
No, I'm talking to this man. Wait, this man.
Yeah.
Who?
He's a drummer. He doesn't know what you're talking about. I'm kidding. Worship.
But it's kind of like you give your all to it. And I always go back to well, now I'm losing my train of thought because I thought that, and now I'm thinking of all the youth that are going to make fun of me for using full send. Um, but
Wow.
I guess in real short of how this one goes, because this is, I don't know if I've honestly ever read Psalms 3 to really look through it and kind of pull all the essence out of it. And I think it's really cool in the way that it's laid out of, this is what's going on with me. This is what I know about you. You've helped me, and here I'm going to rejoice. And I think that is something that I can apply to my life of, currently, I'm in school, all these things with school, but I know the Lord provides and he protects. And when that happens, down the line, I graduate, whatever, there's that sense that I knew he was there the whole time, and I can rejoice in that I've been able to do the things that I feel he's planned for me in my life.
That's good. Good words, guys. And I guess one last thing that I want to say to everybody else who's been watching this. One, how many of us came prepared for this psalm today? Crickets. Jacob, stop trying to freak people out or psych people. Nobody came ready for this. So what I want to do is just encourage. Brandon, you didn't come ready. Don't.
No, I was pointing at you. Maybe you.
Oh, me.
I was trying to point.
I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry. Where was I? None of us came prepared. Obviously. We were just looking at this live. And so the whole point here is just to encourage you that even if you come at something completely, brand new, you're still able to, when you talk with each other and you start seeing it from different perspectives, you're able to pull so much more out of a passage than you could alone. And that's what we're really trying to do here with these Psalms, is to encourage you to comment, to be part of the discussion, because I can guarantee we got some of this stuff probably not completely right. We probably had some stuff that I had said, or one of us, that wasn't completely the full picture of something, or he may have just completely missed things altogether. That does not mean that I want us to do these live reactions all the time. I think that what we might try to do in the future, just to try to give some more value for you, is to come prepared in different ways and be able to share some different perspectives that way. But we want to do a few of these just so that you can get the handle on, you don't have to be prepared. You just need to do it together and start where you're at and let God show you things through each other and through the reading of his word and prayer and asking his spirit to intercede and show you things, open your eyes to his word. He's going to do the work, but just get to it. Comment, be part of this stuff. And we just hope that you guys have a blessed week, and we will see you next time with Psalm 4.